right, Robert.
Indeed.
I did not have my real estate license in the 1990s, believe it or not.
Many people didn't.
Many people watching this episode of Real Estate Chat with
John de Perez.
and Robert Eid haven't seen the 90s market. The 90s market, many episodes ago, for those who have subscribed and liked our episodes, was when my parents bought their home in 1992 or 93 in an environment where prices were going down, not too much different from this one. And so this article from Real Estate Magazine, which we will include in the show description, talks about the 90s. Do the 90s hold clues to what's next for Canada's real estate market? Now, Robert was licensed in the 90s and in the 80s, 70s as well, Robert?
1974.
1974. And so Robert has seen this market, and me as I guess I was 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 in the 90s. Idea. I didn't even know what real estate was. I lived in a house that my parents bought, and we lived with a lot of people in this house. But there are eerily similar circumstances, apparently, to the two markets, 90s and today. Rising interest rates, all sorts of other economic issues. And so there's a various quotes and data points on this particular article comparing 1990 to today. So make sure you read it, and it's a great article. Talks about immigration as well. Watch one episode ago when Robert talked about the solution to housing affordability. But Robert, we're going to put this article aside. And as much as it's a great one, Robert has seen the 90s market. And so what similarities and what differences are there between the 90s market and today when it comes to interest rates, when it comes to supply, demand, affordability, immigration, all sorts of factors, the economy? Are we going to see a 90s style flop of the market? I know you don't like that word, but are we going to see a 90s style decline of the market, which lasted 2 decades before inflation adjusted, 2 decades before it hit same prices again? Robert.
Okay. The central powers in the United States and Canada decided they were going to address inflation in the 70s by raising interest rates, and again in the 80s. And when they relented in the middle of the 80s, they dropped interest rates down, and we had a housing boom that went from sometime in 1985 until the end of, it was 1989. Spring was sort of the peak, and then it fell down, but it always falls down in the summer. And then the highest price ever was achieved in the fall of 1998. And then the spring of 1990 just didn't come. It certainly didn't come in the way that it had done for the last several years of boom, 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 boom. Because again, interest rates were being shoved up to fight inflation. And as interest rates went up to fight inflation, it increased the cost of carrying a mortgage, of carrying a house. And so the price of houses gradually faded as they fought inflation, and gradually faded down to where Elton Ash is the executive from Remax, was just about to retire from Remax Canada, the Western section. And he was in the business as a salesman. He just had an interview with them, and is an owner of a company and is a regional executive. So he saw all of this happen. And so we saw, as I stimulated the economy with low interest rates, we did see a real estate boom for several years. And then as they raised interest rates, it sort of calmed down, and then everybody was second guessing what they're going to do. So there was a blip last year. And so now, is it going to be anywhere near the similar, or eerily similar, is what they're saying, that in 1989, the peak in the fall, to when it finally quit, the bottom was reached in 1996. The average house price, nominal, not adjusting for inflation, had gone down by 31.7%. There's a typo in that article. It says from 209 to 198. It went from nearly 290 to 198. So that's 31.7% difference. And that prompted me a while ago, when this first came around, where we were given the idea by Mr. Hogue from the Royal Bank said, well, okay, I'm going to take the data that I have at my disposal, and I'm going to align all of the recent year boom peaks at 100, and then I'll chart it out going a couple of quarters, 9 quarters, I think he did, on either side, and just see what does it tell us as an indication. So I said, well, that's not long enough. And I have monthly data. I have better data than you have. So I'm going to go 25 months before and 25 months after. And then for the year that I thought was pretty good, which was the boom that was peaking in 1989, I took it out 7 years, because the jumble you see there, you really have to look close. You really have to look close. And the red line with the white diamonds is where we are. So it went up to the 100, and then it fell down very fast. And then it marked around, then it went up again, then last year, and came back down. So it's up and down. Now we're about 83% again. So if the 90s, with their high interest rate cycle and their lousy economy recession, is anything like now, then you can expect the real estate market to sort of drift out, never really going too much below 70% off the peak, because 100 is the peak and this goes down to 70 something, but sort of go nowhere, sideways, slightly down for a long time, 7 years, which from now we've gone 2 years, so 5 more years. Now, maybe everything's compressed, maybe everything works faster, maybe interest rates, maybe we have people who are on their tiptoes and moving faster in the United States or around the world, in Canada, central powers of finance, but maybe not. So eerily similar circumstances.
I mean, the main thing that our real estate chat viewers should take away from this is that, different factors happen in different decades of housing. And although there are eerily similar components to this, immigration is the big one that is eerily different, right? So, I mean, 500,000 immigrants coming into Canada would for sure shake up the demand side of things. And I mean, it shakes up the supply side of things because it boosts.
Because the supply is not ready. It's like trying to make everybody switch over to electric cars when you haven't got the capacity in your electrical system to charge them. There was a meme that went around on the weekend where it's an operator in the emergency. And she says, yes, I know your house is on fire, sir, but all the fire trucks, they're electric and they're being charged right now.
So imagine that. And that's one of the biggest factors that's different this time around. And so I guess, what's our takeaway here? I mean, we like, I guess, as human beings to look at the answer, the solution to things, and we like to look at similarities of things so that we create these models.
Yeah.
And so we get something into a model. What will this fit into? Or is that a futile thing to go through, because there's just a lot of different factors that the best thing to do is just to be prudent, Robert?
That's right. Well, you've got always the best case scenario, the worst case scenario, which, you've got a school of thought that will automatically gravitate to those. And the reality is going to be somewhere in the mushy middle. So you hit it, is don't do anything dumb for you. Don't do anything that's good for somebody else, but not good for you. Do something that's good for you. And you've got to live somewhere. You've got to live somewhere. And we know there's an inverse relationship between interest rates and prices. And we heard that bad is good. So that if there's a bad time, interest rates will come down. But is that good for you? And we know if the economy starts picking up and everything is marvelous, that interest rates will continue to be high and inflation will still be high. Is that good for you? So it's a real head scratcher. But you have to live somewhere. You're going to have to make a monthly payment for some darn thing. And maybe you have to change locations. Maybe you'll have to buy out of town and remote work. There's all kinds of things that on the other side of this lockdown craziness just were not possible, but now they are. It's going to be a new paradigm. You're right. There's many differences between now and this 1990s, but there's many similarities too.
So several decades later, lots of differences, lots of similarities. So if you like this episode of Real Estate Chat, make sure you click like and subscribe to our episodes. And here's a question for you, another mini survey. Were you in the real estate market in the 90s? Do you recall what buying a home was like? Do you recall what selling a home was like back then?
Good one. Yeah.
Interest rate payments. Like my parents were paying a significantly high amount of interest rates. And we've received comments on previous Real Estate Chat episodes, we didn't know what the 90s were like. I mean, hey, I was a kid at the time, but Robert knew what the 90s were like, and my parents knew what the 90s were like. So don't get us wrong. Like, I mean, we've got as open-minded perspective as possible, but of course, we like to extend that to our real estate chat viewers. So type into the comments, what was real estate market and real estate, what was your real estate experience like in the 90s?
Good one. Yeah, good. That's very good.
Thanks for watching this episode of Real Estate Chat. Take care and bye for now.
Bye-bye. See ya.